Rick, he, him up in Canada. Rick, I think we've talked before. You want to talk about Bible prophecies today. How are you, Rick?
Hey, I actually didn't call in about that. They must have wired my last call.
That must have been from last time. What did you want to talk about, Rick?
So I wanted to discuss the case. I think that the brain proves God.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Give us
Go for it.
We're close to the end of the show, Rick. So we're gonna be pretty.
I'll go.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll go quick. Okay. So if you look at all the ancient religions, a lot of them, at least, they all talk about the third eye, which is located on the forehead. In Matthew 6:22, Jesus says, "The light of the body is the eye. Therefore, if your eye is single, the whole body is filled with light." Right? The seal of God is written on one's forehead. The mark of the beast is in the forehead, not on the forehead. And your spirituality and humanity is all controlled through your prefrontal cortex, whereas exactly where the Bible, as well as the ancient religions, predict our spirituality center is, hence the third eye or the seal of God, right?
So no, science would disagree with a lot of that. So the prefrontal cortex is partially responsible for things, but spirituality has been shown throughout the brain, and one of the more primary areas is the parietal lobe, which is not in the forehead. That's on the side of the brain. And the third eye usually refers to the pineal gland, which is not in the front of the brain.
It's kind of like in the center, if I'm remembering correctly.
They refer to that, but the prefrontal cortex, most of the activity is centered throughout, as well as our humanity. It's what separates us from other animals, right? Is our ability to empathize, right? And ask who we are, why we're here. Those kind of questions all come in the prefrontal cortex.
Other animals show empathy. We know other animals show empathy. We know other animals, at least in some capacity, are thinking about themselves. Like we watch dolphins train their young to like use certain like plants in the ocean to like heal cuts on their body. Like we've seen stuff like this. We've seen really, really complicated behavior like this. So, I mean, but I don't think it's as clear cut of a line.
Humanity.
So is it, again, I already mentioned that the prefrontal cortex is part of something. You are claiming that the prefrontal cortex is the primary reason that we're spiritual. And I disagree with you. And I mentioned why I disagree, because I see that the science supports that the parietal lobe plays an incredible role in this, especially specific parts of the parietal lobe. So do you disagree with that?
I do, and I encourage everybody to go look up the brain activity that's being used, as well as they did studies on talking in tongues, which showed the same activity in the
Okay, so hold on, Rick.
Prayer.
Yeah.
Give me your studies. Tell me citations. Give me citations.
Name anyone.
I mean, as far as studies, but I mean, you can go and you can watch these scientists do these studies live. We don't have to read about it. You can see the activity being used.
Yeah, but just give us a citation. Like, what would we look up?
Where can I find this? Where can I find this study?
Look up speaking in tongues studies. Look up prayer. Type it into Google right now.
Do you know how to cite? Rick, let me talk. Do you know how to find papers online? Do you know how to find academic studies online?
Like studies, yeah, sure.
Yeah, what makes a good study?
What does that have?
I want to make sure that because no, I need you to understand that a Google search is probably not the best way to find academic resources, right?
At least Google Scholar, right? I mean, go to Google Scholar at least.
So.
Right?
How can I find a study? Where would I find this? Is there a journal that it's in that I can look up? Where can I find this?
Well, go to YouTube and type in studies on spiritual.
YouTube is not a study. YouTube is not a journal or a source of studies.
Okay. Hang on, Rick, because we're not having a conversation right now. Let's have a conversation.
Is YouTube a source of academic information? Can I believe everything I see on YouTube?
Rick?
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, can I believe everything I see on YouTube?
No, of course not. But when it's a clinical
so it's YouTube
and it's reputable studies.
So is YouTube?
Hang on.
So is YouTube a good source?
Slow down.
Rick, so is YouTube a good source of information? If I were to search anything on YouTube, could I find bad information that even Is it possible that I could find on YouTube something that says that it's a study that isn't actually a study? They just said it.
Oh, 100%. But tell me, what's more productive? A piece of paper telling you an analysis, or a camera?
Yes.
What's more productive to humanity to witness a study?
So hang on just a second. The reason that I am jumping in, because once again, we are in a position where I am very confident that Ben's knowledge on this is much, much deeper than mine. But I muted you, Rick. And the reason that I've done that is so that we can point back to something that you literally just said, that is now recorded, that I want you to, honestly, I would like for you to just play it over in your mind 100 times over the next week and just think about what you just said. Because is there any value in like academic studies, like a piece of paper that has an analysis on it? Like, yeah, there fucking is. Yeah, of course there is, dude. That's how we know all of the things that we know. We go out, we have this thought in our head. We go, hey man, I saw this thing. I wonder if it's this. We try to test it. And then we have other people test it. And then we talk about that. And that is very valuable. And that's not to say that watching the MRI on a live stream is not also valuable, because it is. But what Ben is trying to get at is that when we asked you, hey, you got this claim about the brain and God and stuff, point us to any one thing that could indicate that. The only thing you've said thus far is YouTube videos. Which, it's not to say that there aren't good videos on YouTube. Of course there are. Ben and I are on YouTube. So there's at least a couple of good videos. But you see why that's a problem. You see why just saying, hey, I watched a YouTube video and it told me these things. That's an issue. You agreed with that. You said, hey, yeah, there could be incorrect information. And so where Ben wants to go from there is, well, then how would we determine what is more or less valuable information? And the answer to that, almost always when it comes to medicine and science, is going to be a peer-reviewed paper of some kind. And reading through that and understanding the methodology and the information and how many other people have looked at it and tried to disprove it. So I think it's a problem that you're not interested in these studies as much. You seem to be very dismissive of them. And I guess for me, go ahead. If you're saying you accept, if you're saying you accept peer-reviewed studies, hang on, Rick, I can mute you. If I'm talking, you're not. If you're saying you accept peer-reviewed studies, you're saying that, hey, that's a good method there, Rarity boy. I got you, Ben. Peer-reviewed study. Just give us one. Honestly, just give us one. But if you're not giving us any, and you're just saying, well, there's a couple of YouTube videos that say this thing, that's in no way, shape, or form going to be enough to indicate what you're actually claiming is true. Okay. So I got you unmuted again. Go ahead. I'll give you a few minutes.
Okay.
Well, maybe
Can
not
I
a
go?
few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody in college knows this is a fallacy, because we're given links to YouTube all the time on reputable studies and to observe these things as well. I work for one of the
I don't feel like you were listening much.
You weren't. Can I talk?
Constantly.
Rick,
yeah, I don't feel like you were listening much,
okay.
Rick. So I put you on mute again.
And I'm going to say something to respond to that. So there are some YouTube videos that come from credible sources. The difference here is, if you were citing one of these reputable sources, what they do is they put their sources, the studies, usually in the description. So if you go to any video by Johns Hopkins University or by some journal where they do a presentation talking about a study, they put their study usually in the description, or you can find some way to access the actual paper. And then you go to the paper, you read through it, and then when someone asks you for a citation, you don't send them the YouTube videos, you send them the link to the study. So when I say, I want the citation, I want you to tell me the study that the video used. That's what the metric is based on. Does that make sense?
I know that we have said a lot, Rick. I know that we have said a lot, and you probably have responses to all of them. But let's move on from all of that and just get to this question, which Ben and I were wanting before, which is, do you have a citation for this information that you have claimed is the case? Ben says, hey, I've read some things that seem to disagree with that. We're just asking for a single source, a single peer-reviewed study that points towards your claim, okay? Is there anything that you can give us today? We probably won't go through it all, but at least it'll give us a good starting point. And when you call back next time, we can discuss that specific citation.
So I'm going to just say first, I used YouTube videos from my textbooks to ace every one of my tests in college. So this is a total fallacy what you guys are doing here, and you know
it's not a fallacy.
It's not a fallacy. I don't
understand
the definition of the word fallacy, but that's okay. Do you have a citation, Rick?
You guys are leading the world to believe that.
I don't believe you understand what the definition of the word fallacy is. You can go look it up. It's not very difficult. You can say it is fallacious. You can say that what I'm saying is fallacious, but it being a fallacy is probably incorrect. So,
and furthermore, again, you can use YouTube videos to help you ace tests in college. But again, those videos that have credible information come from credible sources with citations and studies that they take that information and condense it into a video. I do this. I make videos where I take sources and condense them down. But if someone asks me, hey, where did you find this information? I can send you the journal I got it from or the paper I got it from. That's how we learn. And furthermore, I think there are, if I were to read this study, if you were to send me a study, oftentimes you can see what a study says, but not quite know how to interpret the information. So even if, going back to your original question, with the brain regions, if you were to say the prefrontal cortex is the only region or the primary region responsible for this, even just using MRI imaging and saying this lights up when you think about spirituality, it's not enough, because that's misleading data. You're not proving what you think you are using this scan. So that's where hopefully we can go there in the future. But I think we can't even address that claim yet, because we have to move first through what is data.
Yeah.
I think if we can establish for ourselves in this conversation what is data, the next time you call in, think really hard about that, get some citations, and then call back in, and I'll be happy to go through those specific citations with you.
And that I think is exactly where we're going to leave it, Rick, because I think that's a good spot, because otherwise it's just us going back and forth and saying nuh-uh, 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 and it doesn't take us anywhere. Like, I don't have any papers offhand to cite, but I didn't call in with this topic. So definitely, Rick, we appreciate you calling, and we want you to call us back. We want a little bit more meat on the bones here, right? Because otherwise, again, we just don't have anywhere to go. So